Good evening, everybody. It's Jordan from Don't Buy the Hype, here with my post-game reaction from the game that I just got done watching, the Champ Sports Bowl between Florida State and Notre Dame. Obviously, this was the first kind of big-name matchup of the bowl season so far, where you match two, outstanding history, storied football teams. I haven't done any blogs on any of the previous bowl games just because, to me, honestly, with the exception of probably Boise and Arizona State, none of these have really seemed that interesting to me. The final score here was Florida State 18, Notre Dame 14. Florida State did get the cover. I released that earlier today. My pick of the day, take Florida State minus the 3 points. Jimbo almost screwed us there, going for two twice when they really didn't need to. But 18-14, Noles cover the spread. I think a more appropriate name for this game really could have been the used to be Champs Sports Bowl, because that's what both of these teams are. They used to be champs. They're nothing like they used to be. If you would have thought about this matchup, not even 20 years ago, but 10 years ago, this could have been a great matchup to watch. But really, this was a terrible ball game. For Florida State, first of all, a lot is made as an excuse, kind of a cop-out about their four freshman offensive linemen. Obviously, for the Noles fans, that gives them hope and looks forward to the future. If you're starting four freshmen on the offensive line, then you really haven't done a good job recruiting. You can say what you want about injuries and the like, but if you've got enough guys going down to where you got to play four freshmen, then you really haven't recruited the depth that you needed to be successful. That was obvious today. They could not run the football at all. They were able to get a couple of runs there to assault the game away in the last 2 minutes, but for the most part, they weren't able to run the football at all. Now, that leads me to Notre Dame. What in the world is going on at Notre Dame? Will anyone ever be able to step in and make that a successful program? Obviously, they had high hopes for this season, and I'll talk about this more later when I do my postseason recap show. I did buy the hype on Notre Dame this year. Stupid on my part. I will never do that again. I thought Notre Dame had a legitimate chance to win 10 ball games this year. Please, they won 8. Quarterback play for Notre Dame was awful. I mean, both guys they brought in were terrible. Obviously, Dane Christ is now gone. I don't know what in the world is happening. Brian Kelly used to be, in public perception, a great coach. He did a great job at Central Michigan, really built them up, got them rolling at the beginning of Dan Lefebvre's career, then moved to Cincinnati, had them winning Big East championships, and he goes to Notre Dame and they're underachieving. It makes me wonder, is Notre Dame a black hole for great college football recruits and for college football coaches? Is anybody going to be able to step in there and win like Notre Dame expects to win? Because I'm going to tell you, and you'll see this. I'll post this at the bottom of the post. If you think they're winning 8 ball games with the schedule they got next year, you're crazy. They may be a better, more improved football team, but there is no possible way that they're going to have a 9 or a 10 win season next year when you look at the schedule they've got. It is unbelievably tough next year. Really, the only game that could probably be a gimme is probably the Navy game at the beginning of the year, which always gives them trouble here lately anyway. I was shocked. I thought really in the second year of Brian Kelly that he'd be able to step up and really move this team forward. But it's the same old stuff they've always had. I don't know. In watching this game tonight, guys, Florida State, quarterback play was terrible. They couldn't run the football till right at the end. Defensively they were okay. Obviously they were faster than Notre Dame, and that really helped them a lot. For Notre Dame, I really couldn't figure out what they were doing defensively. First half they come out there blitzing, they're sending guys, blitzing the house against that young offensive line for Florida State. They had 4 sacks. Second half they quit blitzing. They dropped back into coverage. I couldn't figure out why. All they had to do was pressure the quarterback, and E.J. Manuel would not have been able to make the throws that he did in the second half to get it back in the ball game. Again, coaching, what's happening at Notre Dame? I just don't know. There's no reason that they can't be a great program. You can say what you want to about their admission standards. I know that's always one of the big cop-outs that they have, as to why they're not as good as they could have been. Well, lower the admission standards. If you want a great football team, who cares? You got thousands of students up there. Let 25 of them each year with lower standards get in so you can have a good football team. I don't get it. The excuses for Notre Dame now are gone. I don't understand why they're not achieving at a greater level. And I'm going to tell you, it ain't happening next year. For Florida State, again, we hear the same thing every year. Oh, we're young. We pull in a great recruiting class. next year we're going to be so much better. And they always win their bowl games, so we get the hype going into the next year, just like they'll be in the upcoming year. Oh, we played all these freshmen. Let's go ahead and put Florida State back in the top 10. At what point do you become a great football team again? I don't know. That we do everybody gets hurt. We bring in young guys every year, and then we bring in a top 5 recruiting class. We're the best closers on signing day, which they really are. And we see this pattern every year, but then the results are never there. Is Jimbo Fisher really the guy that's going to bring that back? Of course he's going to say he is, and he got an extension today. I know it was only a 1-year extension, but, what has Jimbo Fisher done at Florida State to make you think he warrants an extension? I mean, I know there was no greater compensation than pay, but really? I mean, yeah, he beat an average Florida team this year, but, until they beat Wake Forest, they're really not going to step back to national prominence. So, again, in closing, I really expected this to be a halfway decent ball game between Florida State and Notre Dame, and in reality, it was terrible. As I sat and watched, I had more questions, way more questions than answers about both teams in terms of where they were going. In the long run, can Florida State get back to where they were? Can Notre Dame get back to where they were? I think if either team does, I think Florida State is definitely closer to that than Notre Dame. But, again, I was just overall shocked at how poor both of these teams were. So, I think, again, the more appropriate name for this bowl game would have been the used-to-be champs Sports Bowl. Don't buy the hype.